The first thing I did after rebirth was grab my imperial brother's hand and stab his beloved to death with a sword. Su Yueyao's eyes widened, unable even to utter a sound before dying by the blade. My brother clutched her lifeless body, blood-stained, consumed by grief and rage. Su Boyu. She was the one I loved. I drew my sword, twirling it to form a bloody flourish. So what? For threatening the very foundations of our southern dynasty. Even one death is too lenient for her. I am the sole legitimate princess of the southern dynasty, known as Io in childhood. During my first birthday ritual, my imperial brother offered me a jade ornament, Io. Jade embodies the virtues of noble gentlemen and virtuous ladies. Would you choose this? I drew a small dagger and cleaved the jade ornament in two, stunning all present. Thus I earned my formal name, Su Boyu. My brother never understood why I was different. The Southern dynasty's royal family was known for its gentleness, our father's temperament was mellow, our mother graceful and refined, and he himself was as elegant as jade. Like all Southern dynasty women, I possessed a naturally soft, sweet voice and a delicate, endearing beauty. Yet my heart was hard, still, cold, and merciless, like an emotionless monster. I watched the laughter and tears around me with calm detachment, forever standing apart. Just as now, watching my imperial brother lose his beloved, my face remained utterly unruffled. You're mad. You're a heartless monster. He cried out, his voice devoid of any imperial dignity. I curved my lips slightly, my heart turning to ice. Heartless. Yes. But in my past life, when the Southern dynasty fell, I wept until my blood ran dry. Su Boyu. What did Yueyao ever do to you? Why this? His eyes bulged, filled with the madness of losing his deepest love. Yueyao. My Yueyao. He repeated Su Yueyao's name over and over, his voice both tender and heartbroken. But he forgot that once Io was also my childhood name. When Su Yueyao first learned this, she stood beside him and gave a bitter laugh, one of short fortune. Who dared to offend the princess's name? My apologies. After that, he only called Su Yueyao Io, while addressing me as princess. In the end, I became Su Boyu. I adore silver chain headpieces, they make my eyes and brows shimmer with a radiant glow. A skilled artisan from Jiangnan crafted a silver chain headpiece as tribute for me. Using the finest crystal, delicate patterns were intricately carved along the chain, named the flower of earthly prosperity. Su Yueyao, clad in simple white robes, gazed at the exquisite ornament with envious eyes. Your Highness, with your robust health and rosy complexion, truly live up to the name flower of earthly prosperity. My frail, sickly body is unworthy of such beauty. The next day, my dear imperial brother took the flower of earthly prosperity and sent it to the Su residence. I adore the swing, soaring freely in the breeze with unrestrained grace. Su Yueyao clutched her skirt tightly, her smile strained. If only my health were better. Seeing the swing wouldn't make me feel so sad. So, my brother dismantled every swing in the southern palace, leaving only the one in my own palace. My talent for the zither was extraordinary, honed by years of diligent practice until its haunting melodies stirred the soul. Su Yueyao humbled herself, with a princess of such brilliance before me. I feel utterly ashamed. Io shall never play again. My imperial brother pleaded with me, sister. Please. Stop playing the zither. Io has only this one passion, I cannot bear to see her give it up. Sister. You have other talents besides music. Just let her have her way this once. I smiled as I escorted him from my palace. From that day on, I addressed him not as brother but as your imperial majesty. Our parents passed away early, leaving him as their only son. He ascended the throne at a young age. We grew up relying on each other, jointly upholding the affairs of the Southern dynasty. Had he merely favored Su Yueyao slightly, I would never have turned against him. I had received ample love. So much so that even if my brother's affection were lost, it wouldn't matter. But Su Yueyao sought far more than his affection. She coveted the Southern Dynasty's throne. For she knew that nothing could drive me to despair except the collapse of the Southern Dynasty. And in my past life, she succeeded. My foolish elder brother loved her to the bone, drinking the poison she offered without a second thought. He ended his own life and brought down the Southern Dynasty. I still cannot forget that moment. Rushing back from the border between the two dynasties, I saw Su Yueyao hanging his corpse from the city gate. Her smile feigning tenderness yet dripping with malice. Su Boyu, you are finished. The moment Brother Ci died, your retribution was sealed. Standing atop the gate, her voice held no pretense of kindness. Only then did I realize Su Yueyao loved Lin Ci. And Lin Ci loved me, even his death was connected to me. War had erupted between the Northern and Southern dynasties. The Southern court, with its untrained, ineffective army, suffered defeat after defeat until it was forced to sue for peace. The Northern court demanded the eldest princess in marriage before agreeing to cease hostilities. Lin Ci knelt before the golden throne hall. His youthful back straight as a spear. Your servant begs to lead the campaign, repel the Northern forces, and defend the Southern lands. His resolve was too absolute. His stubbornness too fierce. The emperor granted his request. On the eve of his departure, the fiery youth arrived at my palace gates. He said nothing, leaving only a sunflower for me. Later, he led a band of reckless warriors deep into the Northern court's heartland. Fighting with their lives, they dealt a crushing blow to the Northern forces. He truly protected me. Yet he was slain by the Northern court's fourth prince, who had rushed from the northwest to reinforce the enemy. His bones were forever buried in foreign soil. Su Yueyao stood on the city ramparts, weeping bitterly. Brother Ci died for you. But did you ever show him a shred of tenderness? You never did. You took advantage of everyone loving you, never valuing anyone's affection. Yes. In a way, Su Yueyao was right. I never valued anyone's love. Compared to the empire and its people, what was love? Lin Ci had done me a favor, and I would remember it. I had taken care of his family members, each and every one. But that was the extent of it. Not loving someone meant not loving them. His affection for me is his affair, not mine. Little did I expect that this lack of love would one day destroy the Southern Dynasty, the very realm I cherished most. Su Yueyao wept with heart-wrenching anguish, yet laughed with maniacal fury. You wronged him, so I shall avenge him. Whatever you desire, I shall take from you. Whatever you hold dear, I shall destroy. The Southern Dynasty's imperial lineage withered. With my elder brother's death, the bloodline severed, the Southern Dynasty faced no heir, plunging into turmoil. Su Yueyao and the Su clan behind her seized the southern capital with rebel forces, controlling 6 surrounding cities. Worse still, my incompetent elder brother even handed her the imperial token. Amidst the chaos, I led loyal court officials beyond the rebels' reach, gathering a ragtag army to barely hold our ground. Meanwhile, the fourth prince of the Northern Dynasty, who had long lurked menacingly along the border, seized the opportunity to march south, capturing city after city. He played the righteous card, refraining from invading my territory and focusing solely on battling Su's rebel forces. Ultimately, he seized the southern capital and subjected the entire Su clan to a brutal execution. Not only that, but he strictly disciplined his troops along the way, forbidding pillaging and slaughter. He even provided modest compensation to civilians caught in the crossfire. His reputation became terrifyingly good. On the day he captured the southern capital, 18 surrounding cities vied to present their seals and surrender documents. He truly is a man whose political skills far surpass mine. Therefore, I abandoned resistance. I ordered my people and my ministers to surrender. The unification of the northern and southern dynasties brought an end to war and slaughter. For the common folk, this was indeed a blessing. The only one who paid the price was me. On the day the fourth prince of the northern court shed his armor and stepped onto the southern court's golden throne in court robes, the former court's legitimate princess, clad in plain white, leapt from the city tower, sacrificing herself for her country. Unexpectedly, upon opening my eyes, I found myself back in the year the southern court was defeated, the year Lin Xi was about to march to war. Su Yao entered the palace with gentle intent, urging my imperial brother not to send Lin Xi to war. And I drew my sword and killed her. Standing high above, I watched my weeping brother make a cold decision. Lin Xi need not march. I shall go as a peace offering. Lin Xi was already the southern court's most brilliant military talent. If he died, the southern court would soon fall to the northern court. To preserve the southern dynasty, the only option now is for me to marry the enemy, buying time for our forces to grow stronger. As for Su Yao, she spent her life consumed by jealousy over Lin Xi, envious of me, yet never threatened the southern dynasty's throne. Killing her would lack justification. But it matters little. She's dead now, any charge will suffice. Her heart was corrupt, she committed the crimes of slander and sowing discord. She must be executed. I placed the bright yellow silk scroll before my imperial brother. Write it. The edict for the marriage alliance. My imperial brother. He clung to Su Yao, refusing to let go. His gaze filled with hatred as he looked at me. If my imperial brother cannot lift his brush, then I shall do it. In my youth, I too clung to him for a time. I even attended the Grand Tutor's lessons with him, practiced calligraphy together, and trained in martial arts. Though brief, this period allowed me to become familiar with his little habits. He elongates his slanted strokes, writes verticals without the needle-like tip, excels at running script, and writes the character Yao with utmost care. I know all these things. His handwriting, I couldn't replicate it perfectly, but I could capture 90% of its essence. I calmly praised myself with words like gentle and virtuous, clever and graceful, and beautiful and wise. Then finished writing my marriage decree. Your Imperial Majesty. The imperial seal. He still didn't move, his eyes blazing with fury. Why bother? I turned, unerringly selecting a box, and took the imperial seal from within to affix the seal. Before leaving the palace, I told him, were it not for this world forbidding women to ascend the throne, I would have pulled you down myself. Alas, though I harbor ambitions of becoming empress, the times tell me what is lacking now is a princess of unparalleled beauty to be offered in marriage. Stepping outside the palace, I addressed Lin Xi kneeling on the steps. Young General Lin, I have decided to go as a peace offering. His expression froze, tinged with an irrevocable sorrow and pain. My brother's nature is too soft. The southern dynasty's realm cannot depend on him. So, young General Lin, what of you? Lin Xi opened his lips, yet no sound emerged. I smiled. If the southern court's armies were entrusted to you, young General Lin, they would surely become disciplined and unstoppable. Furthermore, I have one more matter to entrust to you, young General Lin. I crouched down to meet his gaze, letting my exquisite skirt trail on the ground. Lin Xi, you must live well. I rose to leave. Behind me, Lin Xi's choked voice echoed. Your servant obeys. I instructed the Imperial Household Department to prepare my dowry. To prevent the Northern Dynasty from profiting, I specifically ordered that everything be done according to regulation, not exceeding a single coin. The Northern Court possessed formidable troops and horses, yet its economy lagged far behind the Southern Court's prosperity. Precisely because of this, throughout the 700 years since the founding of the Northern and Southern dynasties, a delicate balance of power had emerged. each side restraining the other. Unless I were a fool, I would never give the northern court money and shatter this equilibrium. When officials from the Imperial Household Department came again to ask about the design of my wedding gown, I pointed to one at random. For a princess sent in marriage alliance, no matter how splendid the gown, it would be of no use, it would be removed anyway. They also inquired whether to follow southern customs with a red veil or northern traditions with a ceremonial fan. They asked if I wished to include the daughter's red wine my parents had buried for me as dowry. I replied to all inquiries with indifference, as long as propriety was maintained. Soon, the northern court delivered their state letter, designating my husband as their fourth prince, the very man who indirectly brought about the southern court's downfall in my past life. I paused, then ordered his background information to be gathered. The fourth prince of the northern court, Muronli, formerly stationed in the northwest to defend the frontier against northern invaders. His valor struck fear across distant lands, earning him the title of war god among the local populace. I knew all this from my previous life and found it uninteresting. What truly caught my attention was the line following his list of military achievements, a womanizer, long indulging in the pleasures of the flesh. Below was a note: rumor has it the fourth prince visited 33 cities of the northern dynasty, and not a single courtesan of renown in those 33 cities escaped his clutches. I set down the records and shook my head. It was said the men of the northern dynasty royal family carried a hereditary flaw in their bloodline, making most of them excessively licentious and obsessed with peerless beauties. When I met him in my previous life, his brow was perpetually furrowed with a grim, murderous aura. His gaze was unfathomably deep when he fixed it on someone. I had thought him an exception, but it seems in his youth, he was quite the womanizer. My father, the emperor, found even 4 consorts exhausting. Could he possibly have slept with all the courtesan queens of 33 cities? Or worse, might he have contracted some unsavory disease? Seems I must investigate further. Though my marriage alliance serves the greater good, I have no intention of perishing to venereal disease. I was a bit too slow. Before I could uncover the truth, the day of the marriage alliance arrived. Yet this swiftness actually eased my mind. Such haste left the northern court no time to mobilize troops or scheme. With the 2 realms united in marriage, the border will surely enjoy peace for a while. Of course, that assumes I, the peace-brokering princess, don't contract venereal disease in my youth and die a lonely death in a foreign land. On the day I departed with the Grand Marriage Alliance convoy, my imperial brother stood atop the southern city wall. His eyes reddened. Su Boyu, this marriage alliance is your own doing. Even if you die in the northern court, I will not retrieve your body, adorned in exquisite peach blossom makeup. I smiled faintly at his words. No need. Just retrieve the body of your own Io. As for me, I am Su Boyu, the Su Boyu who drew a sword to cleave jade at just 1 year old. Io is no longer my name. Half a month later, I reached the border between the 2 kingdoms. Muronli, clad in northern court wedding robes, rode his famed black stallion to greet me personally. Meeting an old acquaintance, my state of mind was utterly transformed. In my past life, our first meeting saw me kneeling beneath the southern palace walls, presenting the southern dynasty's imperial seal. This lifetime, he dismounted with a flourish, his smile radiant yet his gaze profound. The southern dynasty's legitimate princess truly lives up to her reputation. The shattered landscape that would divide us had yet to unfold, allowing me to finally study his features. He was indeed handsome. His features shone like sudden sunlight piercing clouds. His bearing as upright as a pine tree. He radiated a dazzling, masculine vigor, utterly unlike the delicate, useless scholars of the southern dynasty. And I happened to adore such fiery, sun-like young men. Suddenly, I thought, if he weren't afflicted with that disease, this arranged marriage would be a steal. Muronli was in a terrible hurry, driving me frantically north toward the capital. Whenever the carriage stopped briefly, his eyes never left me. When no one was looking, he'd sneak a hug, sighing contentedly in my ear. Little princess, once we're married, I'll finally get to touch you. He was just as lecherous as the rumors claimed, his gaze constantly drifting toward my slender waist before he'd forcefully look away. I found it amusing. In my past life, after handing over the imperial seal, I once sought him out regarding farmland matters in the capital's suburbs. By chance, I witnessed a slender-waisted beauty attempting to climb into his bed. He kicked the delicate beauty far away with one foot, coldly ordering, award her a 10-foot red rope. Blood staining that slender waist, it should be quite a sight. That autumn, the maple leaves of the southern palace couldn't rival the crimson beneath that woman. What a pity that beauty never met the still young Moronli. Otherwise, she surely would have gotten her wish. Little princess. Why the distracted look? He pinched my chin, leaning closer. I smiled and removed his hand. My name is Su Boyu. Calling me little princess sounds downright vulgar. The man of boundless charm leaned in for a kiss, then enthusiastically suggested nicknames. Princess isn't nice? How about Jade? Little Jade? Sweetheart? Darling? Me. He had a knack for naming. He twirled a strand of my black hair, his smile mischievous yet his gaze unexpectedly deep with affection. I won't tease you anymore. I-oh. He had summoned the childhood nickname I'd lost long ago. Shock, bewilderment, confusion, helplessness, all surged through me at once. Finally, staring into those eyes that gazed at dogs with such deep affection, inspiration struck. Did we know each other before? Though not few knew the nickname Au. Moronli certainly shouldn't have. Moronli held me close, his hands finally straying beyond propriety to my waist. What do you say? Yao. You promised to marry me yourself. He was smug and arrogant, his hand on my waist sliding up to his chest. Your martial arts are mediocre. Just one move, right? Do you even remember who taught you? It dawned on me, like waking from a dream, when I was young and loved to roam outside the palace. I once encountered a youth being hunted down, covered in blood. I saved him, and in return, he taught me a sword technique. The youth's voice slowly overlapped with Moronli's. Here. One strike with the sword, and he dies instantly. I loved that ruthless sword technique and studied it earnestly. It remains the sole vivid stroke in my otherwise dismal martial arts journey. I used this very move to kill Suyue Yao. I still remember how happy I was after learning it. I pressed the youth, asking if there was anything else he desired. He gave a carefree laugh, wandering the world. I lack a wife. I lack a home. Young and naive. My methods and mind still immature. I foolishly offered myself. What's so hard about that? I'll marry you. He smiled and hung a jade pendant around my neck. What dowry do you want? The entire world. He didn't bat an eyelid, agreed. But you'll have to wait 2 more years. And it'd be best if it came in installments. This sort of thing takes time to acquire. Recalling it all, I wanted to bury my face in my hands. Sure enough. You shouldn't casually rescue handsome youths by the roadside. Each rescue lands you in a pit. Under the relentless urging of that madman Moronli, the peace caravan's journey was drastically shortened, arriving in the northern capital 5 days ahead of schedule. I thought that was the peak of his madness. But he managed to outdo himself. The very next day after arriving in the northern capital, he brandished his sword at the astronomical observatory. Sigh. He was as stubborn and infuriating as ever. The observatory official said, "Next year has an auspicious date." He raised his sword. The official hastily amended. This May. His sword remained raised. The astronomical observatory cried out. No. 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 7 days from now. 7 days from now is an auspicious day for marriage. Only then did he finally lower his sword with satisfaction. then rushed straight to the Imperial Household Department. The Imperial Household Department was quite sensible. They all played dumb, ducking their heads and assuring him they would definitely arrange the wedding matters perfectly. Moronli, thoroughly satisfied, slung his sword over his shoulder and sauntered out of the Imperial Household Department. He arrived at the inn where I was staying, informed me of the wedding date, then handed me a box, grinning to reveal his charming little fangs. "Yao. You'll handle the money. Whatever else I acquire in the future, you'll get half." I opened the box and glanced inside. My feelings complex. He really was so poor. As a prince of a dynasty, to be this destitute was truly astonishing. But after all, this fellow had persuaded 2 dynasties to halt their wars for my sake, abandoning the grand ambition of unifying them. For the sake of the southern dynasty's throne, being poor was acceptable. Yet one question gnawed at me, demanding an answer, pulling him into a corner. I whispered against his expectant gaze, "The courtesan of the 33 cities. She didn't have venereal disease, did she?" I thought my phrasing was discreet, but Moronli clearly caught the subtext. His face darkened instantly, and he stormed off, flinging his sleeves behind him. After 2 steps, he turned back, gritting his teeth to explain, "Never touched her. Moronli and I must have entered a cold war. He never came to see me again until our wedding day." I didn't dwell on it, content to focus on my own affairs and ponder the future trajectory of the northern and southern dynasties. Moronli had vigorously advocated for peace on my behalf, suspending hostilities between the 2 courts. Yet how many years of peace they could maintain depended solely on how long I could survive in the northern court. How could the 2 courts achieve lasting peace without ever raising arms? An idea stirred faintly in my mind, yet its feasibility seemed so remote I dismissed it altogether. On the day of our wedding, I donned the bridal gown and saw for the first time the evening glory flowers embroidered upon it. Beautiful they were, yet the flowers symbolized fleeting favor, morning beauty. Evening crone. Its meaning of fading grace and waning affection felt ultimately inauspicious. That night, Moronli drank heavily. When he entered the bridal chamber, his eyes were already clouded with frenzied desire, no longer the man who had once glided through a sea of flowers without a single petal clinging to him. He stared intently at my wedding gown, his gaze deepening. The northern dynasty's royal family may be uniformly depraved and lustful, but they are not indiscriminate. Not a peerless beauty? No. If she's too timid to witness bloodshed? No. If our hearts don't resonate? No. He pinched my chin, scrutinizing me closely. The flower queen of 33 cities is nothing special. She can't compare to the peerless beauty of the southern dynasty's legitimate princess. When it comes to wielding a sword with ruthless precision, you're the one I trained personally. You won't flinch at the sight of blood. And you promised to marry me. We were mutually enamored, right? He asked, "Is that so?" Ew. I knew that if I answered yes, this lecherous yet deeply devoted master would cherish me for the rest of our lives. He might even share half his fortune with me. Ruling together, beyond enduring desires stronger than ordinary men in our intimacy. I stood to lose nothing. In a world so unkind to women, this was a rare gift. His love was both twisted and profound. But I didn't crave affection, nor was I after his wealth. I smiled. "If I say yes, would it matter if I later took power from you?" He laughed, his joy unrestrained. The world spun as he pinned me to the bed. He offered me a cup of wine with his lips, then raised that evening glory wedding gown. "Yes. You need never fear falling from favor. My glory, my achievements, everything I possess exists for you, whether you want it or not." He suddenly let out a bitter laugh and added, "You've always been so disdainful, so haughty. You'd surely refuse. In my past life, my dowry even drove you to death." My heart jolted. Had Moronli also been reborn? "You fool. If I hadn't climbed 9,999 steps to beg the heavens on Mount Tianshan. How do you think you were reborn? He kissed me. Fierce yet tender, Su Boyu. Rumors in the southern court always say you're ambitious and ruthless. But I know you cherish the people and strive with all your might to protect peace. His eyes glistened with tears. If you dislike this path, let us unite the two dynasties another way. Just don't abandon me again this time. Okay? A wave of heat washed over my cheeks, jolting me back to reality. Somehow, my tears had mingled with Moronli's. I raised my hand to wipe his tears. I don't blame you for the southern dynasty's fall in my past life. You governed the realm I couldn't hold. I should thank you. But in this life, I wrapped my arms around his neck. Let's divide the labor. You handle the military. I'll manage the civil affairs. What do you say? My husband? That dog's governance is too harsh. It might work for a while, but prolonged rule will inevitably breed resentment. Before I leapt from the city wall in my past life, I agonized over this very issue. Even in death, I left him a book titled Insights on Governance, repeatedly stressing the need for civility in ruling. But judging by his eagerness to marry me now, he hasn't taken a single word to heart. Very well. I shall handle it myself. If I could personally forge a golden age, proving to all women that female governance can bring peace and prosperity, perhaps one day women might stand openly in the imperial court. Moronli, blinded by desire, demanded, "What did you just call me?" I smiled, "My lord." His kisses instantly rained down upon me, mingled with tender whispers of Yao, deep and gentle. The warm lotus canopy, candlelight flickering through the night. When it was over, only one thought remained in my mind. The imperial clan of the northern dynasty truly consists of nothing but debauched, lustful scoundrels. The fourth Prince Moronli is the worst of them all. Story Epilogue. Su Puyu was a woman whose methods were far too masterful. Ambitious yet endlessly patient, she stirred up power struggles and political turmoil without ever leaving a single fatal trace. To seize political influence, she avoided conflict and intrigue. Instead, she appeared in the most demure and dignified attire, accompanied by the most proper and well-mannered maidservant, carrying a dozen bowls of sweet soup to Moronli's study. "Your Highness and the ministers must be weary from deliberations," she said with a warm, harmless smile. "Your humble servant brings sweet soups." Polite, smiling, nodding, she departed immediately after delivering them. Behind her, young court officials sighed that such beauty was like flowers beyond the clouds, while elder statesmen marveled at her measured composure. Only Moronli raised an eyebrow, his expression a hint of amusement. The next time, during a late-night meeting, Su Boyu delivered tea and snacks. The time after that, during a rainy day meeting, she brought ginger soup. On New Year's Eve, an emergency arose requiring another meeting. Su Boyu delivered dumplings. This time, she didn't leave immediately after delivering them. Instead, she casually offered a hint to the assembly, smiling as she shared her humble perspective. The ministers were delighted. Following her reasoning, they swiftly resolved the matter. Each returned home to celebrate the new year in high spirits. By the next year's council meeting, Su Puyu lingered longer in the study. The frequency of her casually offered, seemingly shallow insights increased. Another year passed, and she remained in the study with full justification. Beside Moronli, a chair reserved exclusively for her now stood. Moronli simply let her be, tacitly accepting and acknowledging her. Court officials grew increasingly deferential toward her, gradually treating her as they would Moronli himself. Thus, as the legitimate princess of the southern court, she seamlessly interjected herself into the northern court's affairs, covertly orchestrating the entire situation. When the spring breeze still carried a chill, the crown prince withheld grain and provisions meant for the northwest garrison. Disguised, Su Boyu uncovered the entire chain of corruption and took them all down in one fell swoop. After the purge, she didn't forget to have her own people fill the gaps. In the sweltering summer, the Empress Dowager summoned her to the palace, claiming she would teach her the rules. Su Boyu smiled and agreed. Almost immediately, Moroni, with impeccable timing, accidentally discovered the Empress Dowager's maternal clan smuggling salt. How utterly disgraceful! During the autumn hunt, the third prince ambushed Moroni in the hunting grounds. Su Boyu and Moroni turned the tables, coordinating inside and out to strike him down with a single sword thrust. Same old trick, once he was dead. Fabricating the cause of death was child's play. Winter arrived, with everyone preoccupied with New Year preparations. No trouble arose. Su Boyu caressed Moroni's abs as they weathered the season peacefully. The following year, the deposed crown prince staged a palace coup. As the Northern Dynasty's succession struggle reached its climax, she fought alongside Moroni through every battle until he finally ascended the throne. Moroni smashed the Northern Dynasty's imperial seal and had 2 new seals carved from golden stone, one for the emperor, one for the empress, to jointly rule the realm. The court and the people were in an uproar, marveling at this unprecedented event. Yet none raised objections. May His Majesty and Her Majesty jointly govern the state. Our dynasty shall enjoy peace and prosperity. A golden age of tranquility. Our dynasty enjoys rivers running clear and seas calm. A golden age of peace. On the night of the coronation ceremony, the new sovereign embraced his empress. I'll do as you say. Let's handle the important matters first. Now, let's discuss that sweet soup you delivered back then. I recall how you flustered that Minister of Revenue. And that Hanlon scholar, he blushed just seeing you. And the junior minister of the Supreme Court, usually taciturn, yet quite talkative around you. You say. The North Dynasty royal family's inherent debauchery is gradually resurfacing. Shouldn't you offer an explanation? Moroni was the most lowly prince of the North Dynasty. His eldest brother was the legitimate heir born to the empress, descended from a prestigious clan whose sons excelled in both civil and military arts, rising as generals and ministers. His second brother was the son of the imperial consort, who held the emperor's deepest favor, and by extension, the second prince enjoyed a measure of partiality. His third brother's status was lower, born to a palace maid. Yet that maid was the daughter of a 7th-rank official, her lineage and background impeccably pure. And he was the son of a court dancer. The emperor, slightly tipsy, beheld the dancer's extraordinary beauty upon the stage. The inherent debauchery in the blood of the Northern Dynasty royal family erupted instantly. He disregarded even his own status, taking her in his favor right before his closest ministers. Only later did it become known that shortly after this dancer performed and returned to her quarters, she began suffering morning sickness. How could the dragon's seed be born of a mere courtesan? The emperor immediately sought to have her killed. But she was too beautiful. So, breaking the North Dynasty's imperial rules, he forced himself upon the reluctant beauty and made a cruel promise. If I tire of you and this bastard child remains unborn, then both you and it shall stay. 4 days and nights. The dancer wept and screamed, yet could not escape the near torturous encounter. Unexpectedly, the child remained unborn. The emperor stroked her belly and chuckled, how amusing. Stubborn even in the womb. He casually elevated her to the rank of consort and banished her to a distant palace to rest. If you wish to bear this child, stay out of my sight. He already had 3 sons, all eligible to inherit the throne. Whether this child was born or not was of little consequence. If she dared to parade her beautiful face before him, he would surely force a miscarriage, satisfying his desires first. The dancer tremblingly agreed, retreating to a palace as cold as a dungeon to carry her child. Living so inconspicuously she might as well have been invisible. After 10 months of pregnancy, she gave birth to a boy. 2 months later, her beautiful features and delicate figure gradually returned. But the emperor had already forgotten her. A year was too long, long enough for the debauched Northern Dynasty royal family to favor countless beauties, then conveniently forget when they'd ever bestowed a consort title or impregnated anyone. Thus, the boy's birth drew no attention. Even his father remained unaware. Unacknowledged. He couldn't be recorded in the imperial registry. Without a name, the dancer could only refer to him by birth order as Fourth Young Master. Fourth Young Master inherited his parents' beauty flawlessly, growing to embody their finest features. As he matured, his phoenix-like eyes became breathtakingly exquisite, an exact replica of the emperor's. When the dancer later passed away, Fourth Young Master was brought before the empress. She could not deny it, he was undeniably the emperor's son. He resembled the emperor too closely, not only in appearance, but also in that cold, ruthless aura. The imperial consort, wary and displeased at the sight of him, ordered him away. The emperor happened to be crossing the palace threshold. He glanced at this son with interest, then named him Li. Enter the Jade Register. Such a son who resembled him so profoundly, countless times more than the previous three, how could the emperor not harbor favoritism? Yet his favoritism was always perverse and twisted. Li, since you resemble the emperor so closely, you shall one day rule the realm with an iron fist and recline drunk upon the lap of beauties. I intend to mold you. Understand? Moron Li didn't understand. He only knew that this man called father would toss him into wolf packs, or sometimes snake dens, sometimes leave him in freezing snow with only a single robe, sometimes make him stand in the scorching summer sun, sweating buckets while holding a horse stance, sometimes take him to underground operations that violated Northern Dynasty laws. The lofty emperor personally taught him how to shake dice. You must learn to gamble, but never become addicted. But could this madman let go? If he rolled the dice himself, his odds would be better. Then the madman took him to the arena. Your martial arts were taught by my own hand. Killing a tiger bare-handed should be no trouble. It wasn't hard, I just nearly got eaten by the tiger. Then this mad emperor took him to a brothel. Lighting aphrodisiac incense, can't control yourself. Can you? But Ali, you must endure. A Northern Dynasty royal who fails the test of women will never inherit the throne. I've poured so much effort into you. If you can't control yourself, I'll strangle you right here today. Damn it. Knowing his entire family has a weakness for lust, and he still lights aphrodisiac incense? He thought this stepfather emperor seemed seriously ill. Moron Li ultimately held back. The emperor clapped his hands and laughed heartily. That's the spirit. You may toy with the beauties of the realm, but you must never be ruled by desire. Moron Li gave his father a blank stare as the latter's laughter grew maniacal, then calmly wiped sweat from his brow. Forget the beauties of the realm. Ignoring the aphrodisiac's effects? Not worth it. He'd be better off staring at his own reflection. The Northern Dynasty emperor's training of Moron Li concluded one spring day filled with birdsong and blossoms. Ali. A true sword is forged through 1,000 hammers and tempered with blood. The palace is too comfortable, it cannot forge you into a true blade. Thus, he banished Moron Li into the martial world. Buying every possible threat, either you die, or you slaughter them all and return. Otherwise, I shall consider you never my son. Moron Li finally lived up to his name, destined to be cast out by all. He wandered the world as an exile, a sword his only companion. He wandered through 33 cities of the Northern Dynasty. At his darkest hour, 7 groups hunted him simultaneously. When short on clothes and food, he fought dogs for scraps. But it wasn't just survival, he craved better fare. So much so that though his cooking skills were poor, he developed a knack for preparing dog meat. In every city he visited, Moron Li frequented brothels. He admitted he had a bit of a lecherous streak. He'd heard tales of how stunning the top courtesans were, and while evading pursuers, he'd inevitably hide in their rooms. However, the first courtesan wasn't his type, and that day, she happened to have a client. He listened impassively from behind a screen to a live love scene. After the aphrodisiac incident, such scenes no longer stirred his heart. The second courtesan fainted from fright at his sight. Seeing his hands and clothes covered in blood, he resolved to find a bold girl to love in the future. The third, finding him handsome, immediately tried to touch him. He fled swiftly. A fallen prince x a beautiful courtesan, he loved that pairing too. But sorry. He preferred to cultivate feelings first. The fourth. The fifth. By the 33rd, Moron Lee's heart was finally riddled with holes. As his killing skills grew more refined, he could now effortlessly counter assassins while pursuing romance. But he couldn't find anyone he liked. Perhaps the fallen prince x beautiful courtesan pairing simply wasn't meant to be. Mourning his fate, Moron Lee packed his belongings, intending to take the assassin trailing him to the Southern Dynasty for a change of scenery. There, he encountered Su Boyu, who had ventured out incognito. In that instant, he cursed under his breath. He knew it. How could a lecherous man like him remain unaffected by such beauty? Evidently, it was simply because he hadn't met someone beautiful enough yet. Fortunately, he had now. Like a lone wolf, Moron Lee instantly locked onto his target. What followed unfolded with perfect logic, deliberately making a scene during the fight with the assassin, feigning severe injury to be rescued by her, and finally delivering a suggestive line, "This is a debt of life. Whatever you ask of me in return, I shall grant." Ideally, she'd offer herself in return. Miss Yao only wanted him to teach her martial arts. Well, that was fine too. At least he'd get to admire her stunning beauty up close. Moron Lee said, "All right. Give me a month. I'll teach you a top-tier sword technique." Sword techniques? They were no different from slicing melons and vegetables. She seemed quite intelligent. Learning one in a month would be more than enough. A month later, Moron Lee said, "One must be grounded in life. Martial arts cannot be rushed. Let's start with an intermediate set first." Another month passed, and Moron Lee remarked, "Actually, the elementary sword techniques are quite excellent. At least they're simple." Oh my! She'd never practiced such basic elementary sword techniques. To teach her, he'd even gone out of his way to learn a set himself. In the final month, Moron Lee gripped her sword and pointed it at his own heart. "Here," he said. "One strike here, and you kill me instantly. Mastering this one strike is enough." This single technique would solve most problems for her. For anything else, he would handle it. His IO loved this move, practicing it over and over until she finally mastered it. When she thrust her sword forward, her mind was utterly focused. Her hands steady, the blade straight, never deviating by so much as an inch. She beamed with joy. "Thank you. Is there anything else you desire?" He grinned cheekily, wandering the world. "I lack a wife. I lack a home." After traveling far and wide, she was the only one who truly stirred his heart. Ahem. Well, shouldn't sugarcoat it like that. Truth be told, he was initially drawn by her beauty. Miss Io was genuinely delighted that day and actually agreed. "What's so hard about that? I'll marry you." Suppressing his excitement, he smiled and handed her the jade his mother had left him. "What dowry do you want?" "The entire world." Miss Io looked utterly captivating with that ambitious glint in her eyes. And so, he heard his own voice say, "Fine. But you'll have to wait 2 more years. And preferably in installments. This sort of thing takes time to acquire." Miss Io raised her eyebrows and smiled lightly. "Very well. What is your name?" "My name? An inauspicious name, what a shame to utter it." Moron Lee bared his white teeth. "Names don't matter. You can just call me husband." Miss Io ignored him and told him to get lost. Moron Lee packed his belongings once more. "Barbarians from the northwest are invading our borders. I plan to go chop off a few heads and earn military merit first. If you ever hear of a formidable general from the Northwest, that will be me. Theoretically speaking, a madman like me shouldn't die before achieving greatness. If you want to do something big, you'd better wait patiently for me. Mao Ronli seemed unconcerned, adding with a tea-stained aura, of course. I won't force you. If you meet someone better looking and more useful than me, marrying him would be fine too. His Miss Io thought for a moment. I'll wait for you. She said. You teach swordsmanship very well. Moronli raised an eyebrow. Then it's settled. Marry me, and I'll conquer the world while you govern it? Miss Io nodded earnestly. Yes. The dowry and all that, we can discuss it. Discuss my ass. After Moronli returned from rolling around on the battlefield, he discovered his Miss Io had long forgotten him. Whether in her past life or this one, she'd forgotten him completely. Later, after much probing, he discovered Su Puyu had a flaw she herself didn't know about, face blindness. No matter how handsome a face was, if she hadn't seen it in too long, she'd forget it entirely. Fine. Moronli thought. She was the wife he chose, so he'd have to accept it. Forgotten is forgotten. As long as she was still by his side, there was always tomorrow. Ahem. But that time depended on her staying his wife. After bringing her to the northern capital, he noticed his eldest brother, who'd always looked down on him, suddenly grew much kinder. His second brother, usually sharp-tongued and spiteful, now hovered around him like a parrot. The third prince, cunning and ruthless, couldn't hide his intentions, setting his sights directly on Io's waist. Moronli understood. They were all scum from the Northern Dynasty royal bloodline, who didn't know each other's dirty tricks. They'd simply lusted after her. The royal family of this dynasty wasn't without its secrets, emperors stealing ministers' wives, brothers snatching each other's sisters, beauties serving both father and son. Standard practice. Nothing new. He wasn't particularly angry. He set the eastern palace ablaze, and word had it the eldest brother coughed for 7 days from the smoke. The imperial consort's cousin embezzled a few 100,000 taels, and the second brother was now running himself ragged over the matter. As for the third brother, find a dark, stormy night, beat him senseless with a sack over his head, focusing the blows on his face. The third brother values his reputation, he'd likely dare not step outside. After committing these misdeeds, Moronli brandished his blade, swiftly and brutally intimidating and bribing the Imperial Astronomical Bureau and the Imperial Household Department. Once the wedding date was set, Moronli finally felt at ease. He turned and bought a packet of osmanthus cakes, carrying his entire fortune to the inn. Furious, he was discussing serious matters with her, yet she thought he had a venereal disease. He's leaving, ignoring her. No. He must at least tell her first that he's chaste and upright before ignoring her. He said he'd ignore her. And ignore her he did, not a single word passed between them for 7 whole days. Finally, the wedding day arrived. He thought. The Flower Queen affair was his fault too. When he returned from exile, his second imperial brother had asked him in front of everyone how his life on the run had been. He'd replied that the courtesans of the 33 cities, whether slender as swallows or plump as rings, each had their own charm. And he'd been quite happy. It was precisely because he'd made that offhand remark that he'd gained sudden fame. And afterward, rumors spread like wildfire about his debauchery and promiscuity. He couldn't blame her for overthinking, he bore some responsibility too. Stepping over the threshold of the bridal chamber, he saw her in her evening glory wedding gown, sitting gracefully by the bed. Behind the wedding fan, her eyes were breathtakingly beautiful. Yes. It was all his fault. How wonderful that Yao didn't hold it against him. She tolerated his debauchery, his vulgarity, his almost shameless demands for intimacy. She played along with his schemes, his political maneuvering, his governance to secure the nation. She even considered his feelings. Never calling him by name but only as my lord, you said yourself. Names don't matter. Just call me my lord. She was the most wonderful Miss Yao. For Miss Yao, even a madman could strive to become sane. He would eventually emerge from the hell of bloody slaughter and return to the radiant world of humanity. Each morning when sunlight spilled onto their bed, Moroni would wake and glance at the girl beside him. In this treacherous world of shifting alliances, where lives are as worthless as grass, most loves end bleakly and hastily. His and hers had once been no different. From the foot of the Tian Shan Mountains, he climbed to the summit, one step, one kneel, one kowtow, repeating this 9,999 times. Only then did he earn a chance to rewrite the shattered mountains and rivers that had once stood between them in his past life. Now that they were finally together, he refused to leave any room for regret. Take the betrothal gifts he never delivered in his past life, this time he would see them through. Thus, he granted her near unlimited authority, indulging her every whim without reservation. By the time he had largely dealt with his imperial brothers, her authority had also been firmly established. Later, the eldest brother, stripped of his crown prince title, launched a palace coup. The Northern Dynasty's imperial succession struggle finally reached its bloodiest climax. Yao, he said, I'll secure an imperial throne for you. I'll create the conditions for you to become a virtuous empress. He downplayed the carnage, describing the power grab as casually as mentioning the fine weather. She paused, seemingly aware her martial arts would only hinder him, then nodded, come back soon. I'll make sweet and sour spare ribs for you tomorrow at noon. Orphaned young, wandering as a teenager, his childhood hardships had left him with a lifelong preference for sweet flavors. And Miss Io knew this. He smiled and nodded, promising he'd return to eat her sweet and sour spare ribs. Then he turned and stepped into the thick night. The succession struggle went smoother than expected. Mainly because his eldest brother had such a bizarre mindset, he actually believed there was a father-son bond between him and the emperor. He must have water in his brain. The eldest brother held a knife to the emperor's throat, forcing the blood-soaked man to step back. Don't come any closer, or I'll kill him. Snort. Someone laughed, the emperor. Good thing I had the foresight to depose you last year. Even with a blade at his throat. The emperor retained his imperial bearing, you're nowhere near as good as Ali. You're useless at both scholarship and martial arts. Not even as handsome as Ali. And you can't even win a woman. What good are you? The eldest brother was so enraged he could barely steady his sword. TSK. Though he felt little affection. In this moment, he strangely found the mad old man's words brutally sharp. The next instant, the mad old man looked over, his eyes holding 3 parts satisfaction, 3 parts relief, and 1,200,000 parts regret. Though you're already worthy to inherit the throne, your heart remains too soft. How splendid it would have been if you'd slain this emperor with your own hand. The mad old man shot the eldest brother a disdainful glance, you got off easy. Then he threw himself onto the sword that had been deliberately deflected to be harmless. Dying instantly. The mad old man had given him a pretext. He used it well. The deposed crown prince murdered his sovereign and father, execute him. In the desolate, bleak night, the slaughter in the northern capital began swiftly and brutally, then ended just as swiftly and brutally. As dawn broke, the bells of national mourning tolled, and the northern dynasty changed hands. He rushed back to his mansion without pause, smiling at the beauty who had just risen. Ha ha ha. I returned a bit early. How about sweet and sour spare ribs for lunch and sweet soup for breakfast? His beloved Yao raised an eyebrow. You want meat during national mourning? He shrugged indifferently. No one will know if we sneak it. He remained unchanged, behind closed doors. Disloyal, unfilial, base, and shameless. Every virtue associated with a gentleman, every jade-like quality, was absent in him. But he clearly didn't care. And Miss Yao Yao didn't care either. She rose to embrace him, staining herself with blood alongside him. You have a point. Your reward is a bowl of sweet soup and a plate of sweet and sour spare ribs. With the beauty in his arms, regrets from past and present lives dissolved drop by drop, carried away by the wind on this bright, clear morning. He and his Miss Io finally reached a vulgar yet complete ending. Winters in the Northern Dynasty were bitterly cold. Each year after the first 9 days of winter began, Su Boyu would curl up in Moronli's embrace to read his memorials. Moronli possessed superior physical attributes, long, evenly toned muscles that offered comfort to lean against. His body radiated just the right warmth, and his abs felt wonderfully smooth to the touch. Su Boyu had grown accustomed to slipping her hand over his abs during breaks from reviewing memorials, using the sensation to relax her mind. Moronli, aside from being utterly inflexible and downright stubborn in matters of the bedchamber, indulged her in every other way. For over a decade, he willingly served as her human pillow and portable heater, never complaining. Her imperial brother simply wasn't cut out to be emperor. Su Boyu had intended to review matters concerning the Women's Academy, but instead stumbled upon a memorial detailing the Southern Dynasty's affairs. Picking it up, she discovered it documented her brother's increasingly neglectful governance, leaving her feeling utterly helpless. Ever since she had killed Su Yueyao, her brother had not taken a new empress for over a decade. The Southern court's governance remained mediocre, lagging far behind the Northern court's pace of development. The delicate balance between the two courts had been utterly shattered. Su Boyu ran her fingers over Moronli's abs as she mused. 700 years of division between our courts has only benefited the barbarian tribes. It's time to reunify. Moronli shrugged indifferently. Whatever you decide. Call me if you need to fight. Though he had aged somewhat, his fighting prowess remained as formidable as ever. Su Boyu shook her head. Not necessary. To reunify the two courts by force, causing people to flee their homes and rivers to run red with blood, that would truly make their rebirth meaningless. Husband. Alin is already 17. He was the child of Su Boyu and Moronli, carrying the blood of both the Southern and Northern dynasties. He was the pivotal link in the bloodline Su Boyu had long contemplated, the only solution capable of peacefully unifying the two dynasties. To prevent further bloodshed among her people, she had even factored her own child into this grand chessboard of the realm, waiting a full 17 years. A hunter both ruthless and patient, once she strikes, her aim never misses. You taught him martial arts with your own hands, I taught him governance with mine. He lacks no skill, capable of ruthlessness and decisiveness, yet also of circumvention and appeasement. He will be a good emperor. That New Year's Eve, Su Boyu and Moronli led only 50 horsemen, galloping into the southern capital. Returning to the southern capital after so many years, everything had changed beyond recognition. In the palace of the southern court, Su Boyu encountered her imperial brother's favored concubine. The concubine's features bore a striking resemblance to Su Yueyao, 7 or 8 parts alike. Yet despite this, her brother never touched her. Instead, he had the favored concubine dress daily in plain robes, impersonating Su Yueyao to keep him company. The other consorts in the palace followed suit. Some mimicked Su Yueyao's lips, others her nose, or her eyebrows. Even more absurdly, some consorts wore perpetual smiles. Others kept their brows perpetually furrowed, while others tilted their heads back, their eyes fluttering incessantly. When asked why they behaved thus, they replied, His Majesty says this most resembles Miss Su. Su Boyu and Moronli exchanged glances. Seeing the same 4 words in each other's eyes, he's lost his mind. Su Boyu kicked open the door to his bedchamber, after all these years. Still not satisfied with the chaos? The hall reeked of alcohol. The drunken Southern Dynasty emperor, slumped like a wet rag, recognized the visitor and spat out a hate-filled curse. Su Boyu, you dare return. You owe my Yueyao her life. She did nothing wrong. Yet you murdered her. You owe her life. His expression was deranged, his heart brimming with hatred. He bore not a shred of resemblance to the gentle, patient brother of his childhood. He wept, his anguish and despair wrenching his voice hoarse. You owe my Yueyao her life. Pay with her life? Su Boyu laughed coldly, a despairing laugh. When it comes to paying with lives, Su Yueyao and you owe far more. Do you even know? Back when Su Yueyao was still alive, the Su clan, emboldened by your favoritism toward her, committed countless vile deeds under your authority. Every single one of them I had to clean up. Every single one I had to handle. In the end, the censor would report me to your desk, accusing me of meddling in state affairs. You never trusted me. Only her. When she accused me of ulterior motives, you stripped me of power and confined me. When she claimed her brother was pure-hearted, you entrusted him with authority, transferring the capital's suburban jurisdiction meant for me to him. Your Imperial Majesty, do you know? After her brother seized the suburban lands, he built a hall of books. The very books and beauties lie within books. The cold-blooded Su Boyu's eyes burned with fury. During the investigation, 27 young girls were found in that hall. All under 14. Not a single one survived. And Su Yueyao's father, did you truly believe him to be an honest man? During the Jiangnan floods, he was entrusted with vast sums of silver and grain. He exchanged counterfeit coins for silver and substituted husks for real rice, likely embezzling half a year's worth of the treasury's revenue. Su Yueyao weeps in your ear, and you demand I halt the investigation. Years of pent-up grievances finally erupted in a single night. Su Pi shed tears. Do you know what price I paid to keep the people of Jiangnan alive? Grain prices spiraled out of control, driving people to the brink of cannibalism. To suppress prices, I wielded my sword, forcing my way into grain merchants' homes, 23 households in succession. I earned the infamy of wielding power to oppress others. Even the princess's mansion sold off every valuable possession. You might recall that in the following 2 years, the censoring chief praised me in his memorials, calling me frugal and virtuous. For 3 whole years, I wore the same ceremonial gown and the same set of jewelry to every palace banquet, mended and patched. Patched and mended. How laughable. I wasn't truly frugal at all. As the legitimate princess, I couldn't bear to wear jewelry whose luster had faded at court banquets and embarrass myself. Her voice was soft. It was simply because I had nothing else left. From the moment Su Yueyao appeared, her imperial brother stopped cherishing her. Her clothes were covered in patches beneath her robes, her jewelry had long since tarnished and faded. She lost more and more power, yet was forced to clean up increasingly messy situations. But her brother never cared. His gaze always lingered on Su Yueyao, cherishing her fragility, tending to her feelings, granting her the finest things, trusting her unconditionally. As for this unlikable younger sister, he refused to listen to a word she said. Brother, now tell me, who truly deserves to pay with their life? The defeated southern emperor opened his mouth, only to choke out, this can't be real. Su Boyu wiped away her tears. Regaining her composure, I never expected you to believe me. Perhaps she had once hoped he would. But that hope had slowly eroded each time she painstakingly selected thread matching her gown. Each time she faced public scorn. Each time he took everything she desired to win Su Yueyao's favor. I only wish you understand what catastrophic errors an emperor can commit when he drowns himself in love. Su Boyu did not kill him, the time was ripe. After 700 years of division between the 2 dynasties, peace and unification would finally come. The realm to come would be an era of great prosperity. And you should go among the common folk. See if you can still pine for love day and night when you're just an ordinary person. She truly never understood. While everyone else strives so hard to protect their homes, safeguard the people, and uphold the state, He could sacrifice the common folk without a shred of remorse for some worthless love. Then let him try. You never understood their suffering. What right do you have to die so easily? Su Boyu finally emerged from the sleeping chamber. Moron Li, waiting at the doorway, stepped forward and draped a fox fur cloak around her shoulders. He didn't ask a single extra question, only offering a faint smile in the deepening night. "I-oh. Happy New Year's Eve." Years of unspoken understanding meant words were unnecessary between them. Their presence alone offered the greatest comfort and encouragement. Standing beneath the eaves together watching the snow, Su Boyu suddenly smiled. Tomorrow marks the start of a new year. A new realm for all under heaven. North and South united, merged into the Central Plains. Guards along the two dynasties' borders would withdraw simultaneously, deploying to the southwest, northwest, southeast, and northeast to form a united front against barbarian incursions, safeguarding Central Plains civilization together. Her establishment of women's academies, meticulously advanced over years, would see its first imperial examinations for women next year. Soon, the court would witness women clad in crimson and purple, rising to command armies and enter the highest offices. All matters progressed toward the better. However slowly. That was enough. With the unification of the two dynasties, Su Qiong was no longer an emperor. Drifting as a commoner, he finally witnessed the true cruelty and coldness of the world. No delicacies. No gold or silver. No jade or silk brocades. No palaces or temples, merely having enough to eat and wear was a luxury. During 1 year of drought, crops failed entirely. The court set up soup kitchens to aid the starving. Unable to endure the hunger any longer, he went to receive a bowl. The rice inside was pitifully sparse, barely enough to temporarily ease his hunger. He stared at the empty bowl for a long time, then licked it clean again and again. He was too hungry. Hungry to this extent. Forget about noble gentlemen or jade-like virtue, let them all perish. Forget about love, let it all perish. Nothing could compare to a single grain of rice licked into his belly. Ha ha ha. Someone was laughing at him. He lifted his face from the bowl and saw a man clad in coarse hemp, crouched in the corner just like him, hugging his bowl and licking it. Compared to him, the man looked much more spirited. He struck up a conversation naturally. "Brother, you must be starving too." "Huh? Me too." Su Qiong licked the rice water from his lips, his mouth opening and closing several times. "Too little. Not enough to fill me up." The man's eyes widened. "It won't fill you up. But it's plenty. There was a small handful of rice in there," the man said. "If they distributed porridge like this during the famine back then, my mother wouldn't have died." Su Qiong's hand paused. The man leaned against the wall beside him, tilting his grimy face up to the sky. Back then, the two dynasties hadn't unified yet. All 16 counties in Jiangnan were flooded. My parents, my little sister, and I fled the famine. Father caught the plague and died on the road. My sister was traded to someone else. Only my mother and I made it into the city. But some damned corrupt official wouldn't give us a single grain of rice. He boiled a handful of dirt and called it porridge. Meanwhile, grain merchants suddenly had piles of grain, selling it at 10 times the market price. The light in his eyes dimmed. We couldn't afford rice. My mother died. Not even her bones were left. He wiped his face and forced a smile. If only she'd held on a little longer. 3 days after her death, the Empress arrived. Grain prices plummeted from 16 times the normal rate to just 4 times. Su Qiong's tears splashed into her bowl. Burning bones for fuel. Trading children for food. Whoever died became sustenance. The famine back then had reached such depths. If not for Su Piyu, it might have been even worse. "Huh? Why are you crying, brother?" The man comforted him. "Don't be afraid. I arrived here 3 days ago. The court sends porridge every day, never missed a single day. We won't starve to death. Nor will we become someone else's meal. The man patted his shoulder gently. This porridge, you see, is just enough to keep you alive. It can't possibly feed everyone to fullness. When grain is scarce, if anyone eats more than their share, it could mean others starve to death. So naturally, the court must ration it precisely. Su Qiong shook his head, unable to utter a word. After a long while, he held up his half-full bowl, tears streaming down his face. Why not report them? Those corrupt officials deserve to die. Report? The man tapped his lips gently. Are you crazy? Don't you value your life? Do you even realize you're just a commoner? Don't you fear reporting yourself to death? The man's eyes narrowed. See that cripple over there? Years ago, when his child died and his wife was raped, he took it to the magistrate's office. Guess what? The one who took his wife was from the Su family. You know the Su family, right? Before they fell from power, you'd have to sniff their farts and smile and say they smelled sweet. So what if he made a big fuss? The magistrate slapped him with the full set of charges, threw him in jail, broke his leg, and kept him locked up for 3 years before letting him out. Su Qiong asked, "What's the full set of charges?" "Well, you don't know that? Seems you lived pretty well before your downfall." The man leaned against the wall, eyes closed in contentment as he scratched an itch. "It's the charges, man. When the magistrate wants to scare you, he'll pin 1 or 2 charges on you. You pay your tribute of grain and money, and you're off the hook. But if you dare cause trouble, they'll meticulously pile up 8 charges against you, enough to frame you to death in prison. That's the full set. That cripple only got out thanks to Her Majesty the Empress. They say she slew that demoness from the Su family with a single sword stroke. What a satisfying sight. The Su clan fell, and he barely escaped with his life. Otherwise, he'd be rotting in the mass grave." The man opened his eyes to find Su Qiong staring in disbelief. He then spoke earnestly, "You look like a fallen noble who knows nothing of propriety. Today I'll teach you. If you wish to live, remember these 3 phrases. The people do not fight the officials. The first to stick their neck out gets chopped off. Die unjustly without complaint. Die unjustly without complaint. Die unjustly without complaint. Die unjustly. Never sue." Su Qiong clutched his porridge bowl, weeping and laughing, those 5 words echoing relentlessly in his mind. Only now did he grasp the full, devastating toll Su Yueyao's father had exacted on the people by embezzling grain and taxes. How profoundly he'd failed by blindly trusting the Su family, halting the investigation on a whim to win Su Yueyao's favor. And why had his imperial sister, whom he deemed bloody, brutal, and irrational, resorted to forcing grain merchants to lower prices by drawing her sword? Household by household, abandoned by all, slandered, facing avalanches of impeachment memorials from the censorate, with the Su family relentlessly encroaching on her authority. How utterly desperate she must have been back then. Yao. Yao. Finally, the emperor whose heart and eyes had once been filled only with love wept aloud amidst the world's devastation. Guilt. Regret. Unbearable agony. But it was too late. Time does not rewind. His sister no longer needed her brother. The end.